All right. Okay, good. It is now 7:06, let's say, and we are calling the meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Flood and Erosion Control Board, and the members present are Becky Bunnell, Chair.
Dick Mahusky, Secretary.
Don Lamberti.
And Peter Wiswell, Member.
And Prue O'Brien, Recording Secretary.
Excellent. Thank you all. We have a quorum, and we're going to proceed with the agenda. So our first item is to consider, and act upon 2 sets of minutes. The first will be the April 19th minutes. The second will be the July 26th special called meeting.
I have a couple of comments on that.
Let's go to the the April meeting first. If anyone has comments, please note them now.
All right, this is Dick Mahusky. So after Town of Fairfield Flood and Erosion Control Board, it says meeting notice. That should not appear on the minutes.
Oh, okay.
And then down at on page 1, at the end of item 5, second line up from the bottom, it says pull out weeds and invasive plants. It should be weeds. Change the K to a D.
Okay, I see. Weeks to weeds. Okay.
And then I would also suggest, it says, so they can plant trees that will be good in the water, blah, blah, blah. So I would suggest adding good in the salt water environment.
Okay.
Because if you don't get salt-tolerant trees, they don't do so well.
Right.
And those are the only comments I have on the minutes.
Thank you. And that's from April.
That's the April 19th minutes.
Are there any other comments on the April meeting minutes?
No.
Then can I have a motion to approve as amended?
I make a motion that the minutes be approved as amended.
Can I have a second?
Second. Don Lamberti.
All who are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the amended minutes are so approved. Let us move on now to the July minutes. I had several comments, which I have passed along to our recording secretary. I can read. Some of them are just little typos. So, for example, in item 2, spoke at a public hearing versus poke at a public meeting. But a couple others are a little more substantive. So on item 3, I'd like it to read, draft of proposed resilience section of the POCD was presented to Planning and Zoning and members of the Flood and Erosion Control Board in the first sentence. Then was presented. Then I'd like it to say, Becky Bunnell had a full response, which is sent out to Flood and Erosion Control members and reviewed in the meeting. This is in the July meeting. And then the next sentence is, Ms. Bunnell would like each member to do the same and send response to be consolidated as opposed to the POCD, because the idea is that I'd like all of you to get back to me with your responses on what we should say, and then I will write a formal letter to the POCD committee.
I'm just going to add to Becky, if that's okay. Send response to Becky.
To Becky, yes. The next 2 items were fine. Fairfield will be a resilient committee. Resiliency can be funded and can be eligible, as opposed to eligible to receive grants if the item is in the POCD rather than if the fund is in the POCD. So, in other words, we can get grants if the item is listed as one of the items in the POCD. The next sentence should be the first project. The first was to protect. The first. Oh, I'm sorry. After that, it should be there were 6 sections. Period. Then the next sentence goes. The first was to protect the hubs. Semicolon. Downtown Station, Post Road, Stratfield Village, Southwest Station and Village, Black Rock Turnpike, Greenfield Hills, and Fairfield Metro and Kings Highway.
I'm sorry. Protect the what?
Protect they basically came out with 6 sections of the POCD. Mm-hmm. The first one they called Protect, and they called out 6 kind of commercial hubs.
Hub, okay.
That's
Yep,
what they call
I understand.
them.
Yep.
So that's,
Mhm.
I just used their language.
Okay.
First was to protect the hubs, semicolon, Downtown Station and Post Road, Stratfield Village, Southport Station and Village, Black Rock Turnpike, Greenfield Hills Village, Fairfield Metro, and Kings Highway. So that's all fine, but just I want to add those bits in. Ms. Bundle said she would like to expand that in terms of what we want as a town to protect, to include the fire station, police station, historical buildings, and our beaches, which represent the core essence of our town. I did not have any other things on page 1. Oh, except for the Penfield, the last 2 sentences, the Penfield plan seems to chop through dikes.
Should be Jennings, I would think, the Jennings plan. 'Cause
Oh,
we
yeah,
were
that was the
talking
Jennings plan. What did I write?
Penfield.
Okay, so that's, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Must have
Jennings.
been like, oh, my mind.
Okay, and then on item number 4, update of current projects. I have just 2 comments on that. One is about 8 items down. Resilience measures at the Fairfield Beach Club has not yet started. We'll speak with engineering manager Bill Hurley. And then the last item, Perry's Green update / project has started, land and water borings have been done. Those were my comments, and I will pass these on to approve. You can read my writing. If you can't, please call me and I will.
Okay, I have a couple of comments. On item 3, before the first word draft or proposed, I would suggest that we have POCD with a colon underlined, and then similarly down at the bottom of the page where it says Parks and Recreation Master Plan colon, that should be underlined.
Oh, okay.
And maybe bolden, because those two topics are included in the one item 3.
Right.
It just seems to set them apart to me. Wait, there was something. Oh, in item 2, the last sentence, the DPW director is an ex officio member. I don't believe that is true today.
Oh, will
And
be
this
in
is
the new
yes,
charter.
this is talking about the future state. So I would suggest that the last sentence say, the proposal that the DPW director is an ex officio member of the blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
And then under item 4.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Can I
Okay,
ask you
well,
one quick thing?
Yes.
So the proposal that the DPW director is an ex officio member of the FERB, but that doesn't, and it is reflected like...
is.
Okay.
Strike
In
and
the charter commission.
Okay.
In the charter,
Right.
revised charter.
Right, no, that I understand, but it didn't seem...
Strike
the sentence-
and it.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Then it reads
Thank you,
intelligently.
thank you.
All right, so item 4, the third bullet up from the bottom, status of the wastewater treatment plant project, microgrid completion, I would suggest in place of placement. So the microgrid completion is the biggest item to do. That's all I have. So
are there any other comments on the July minutes?
No.
If not, can I get a motion
this is Dick. I'll make the motion that the minutes be approved as amended.
Can I get a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. The July minutes as amended are now approved. All right, we are going to move on to the next agenda item then, which is to review and develop our written request to the POCD update group. So I passed out, for those that don't have it, my comments on the POCD.
I don't know if I sent this out late this afternoon.
Oh, I did not get this yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think you did. Don, did you get it?
I did.
I spoke to my secretary, yes.
Close.
Oh, my God.
No, I sent it out late. All I did here was I just took Becky's listing of things and just pasted them
Made it into
into
a letter.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
So that's all that does. It does add.
We wanted to add resilience fund, stormwater management, and anything from the old POCD reco were the three items. That we
I don't have a
last
copy.
time.
The only thing, the first couple of paragraphs, I just drafted them, and then so on item 9, I added item number 9 because I came across this presentation from July of 20, or this document that Emmeline put together in July of 2020, which is a recap of the public meetings that were held for brainstorming on what should be included. And there's 2 pages in there that are attached to the email that I think are interesting, just to show that we're still thinking the way we were thinking 2 years ago. And these are those 2 pages. So I would, and I suggest in this letter that we include that entire document with our counsel to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So, and I for one, I still have not laboriously looked through Becky's comments and see where I might comment on them. So, personally, I don't think we can reach a considered draft letter tonight with all the verbiage that we might have in it. And
Okay, but
I don't know, Becky, have you heard from any of the other members?
I have not heard from anyone else, but I would like to really get comments back sooner rather than later. So I'm okay with not approving a letter today, but I would like everyone to please take a little time to review the comments, and so we can agree upon a final letter of next week.
Okay.
Next month.
Well, maybe next week. What if?
So the things that are missing from your letter, which we had talked about, which weren't in my original letter, were setting up a resilience fund and a stormwater management fund, which I don't see in here necessarily.
Right, if they were not, yes. If they were
and
not
we had also agreed to go back and look at the old POCD recommendations we made to them, which I think you pulled the workshop findings, but I would like to personally, which I have not done yet, go back and look at the old POCD recommendations we had. So I think here was my suggestion.
And those are your old, from 2018. Those are your comments from 2018.
This is 2018.
And
okay.
I have not yet, but the reason I have that printed out was I wanted to meld that with these.
Yes, okay.
Okay?
Is this a copy for you, or is this?
Well, I can make another one. You can have it. Yeah.
Good. Somebody will find it.
As long as I still have ink in my printer.
All right, so can I ask everyone, first of all, for those that were not actually at the presentation, so Donna and Peter, I don't think you guys were actually there.
No.
Let me just recap what they were proposing and why we are making these,
Don, you saw that, right? When
but he
Dave
wasn't
Murphy?
at the,
Yes, I did, yes.
Oh, you were on the phone.
Oh, you were on the phone, Don?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so you did not see.
You did at least hear it, but you didn't see it.
Right.
Yes.
So
I have since sent around that
Yeah.
slideshow to the members.
So the key is that they were basically saying that we have 6 resilience initiatives that we should be considering in the POCD. The one is that we create this idea of protecting resilient hubs, and what they called resilient hubs were commercial centers of the town. So it was the downtown, it was the Southport, it was the Fairfield Metro, it was Stratford Village, it was Greenfield Hills, but it was the commercial section of town which they wanted to protect. And my pushback and strong recommendation is that we think what is most important to the town of Fairfield, and it's not just the commercial hubs, it's our historical centers, it's our beaches. We think about what is it that makes Fairfield, and that we create and we add that into the areas that we feel we need to protect. And the reason we need to put these kinds of things in the POCD is if something is in the POCD, it allows us to apply for grants and have much greater grant consideration. If it's not in the POCD, then our likelihood of getting grants is much, much less.
And the other aspect is also for projects that the town will fund within the town's budget. If it's in the POCD, the implication is that has been considered, and the town, yes, it's important to the town. So, powers that be, please fund it in this fiscal year.
So the question is, if the historical parts of the town aren't important to the town, then let's call that out and say we don't care about our historical. Let's let them flood. And if we don't care about our beaches, let's let them flood. But if we do care about them, we should think about making them more resilient, whatever that means and whatever that looks like. And that's what I'm proposing, is we put those things that are important to who Fairfield is as a town, we put in and it protects.
Okay.
The next thing that they proposed was that we create these resilient corridors, which in essence are things like, evacuation routes, protecting, abilities to get, safety issues. It's basically safety and resilient access, which I totally support. They had called out a few roads, one of which was Reef Road, which is fine, but it's actually not an evacuation route. Roland and Penfield are, and Beach is. So I actually think Reef should be one. So I would like us to, as a consideration in the POCD, decide what are the appropriate evacuation routes, and maybe we have to make a few more. And we should make those resilient corridors and protect them and potentially raise them, so that what the resilient corridors is about safety of our residents.
May I ask?
Yeah.
2 questions on that. First, showing my ignorance, Reef, Beach, Roland.
Penfield are all parallel.
Are they all the same elevation?
They're probably close to
within
the same.
inches?
Yeah, they're probably close to the same.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, if one's this much higher, it makes a big difference. But if it's that much, what difference does it make?
They're all the same.
I don't think they're substantially different. That's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I don't think they're substantially
The other one, and one that concerns me more, a month ago, we had a nasty thunderstorm, and I was going from one side, the north side of the railroad tracks, to the south side, through one of the 2 underpasses by the Southport train station. I was shocked how it was raining very hard. 15 minutes, call it a foot of water. My recollection is that all the way from Southport to where Kings Highway goes over the thruway, you have those old railroad underpasses that all flood badly, even though they've got the DPW people in there getting the leaves out and all that. But if we had that...
Well, that is part of the resilient corridors. Right now, railroad underpasses are actually included as one of their resilient corridor.
Do they have a way to address it?
They are proposing that we figure it out, and CERCA actually is working on a
plan.
CERCA
has funded that study.
Yeah, CERCA actually has grant funds to look at how to address that.
Dick's an engineer. He would understand it far better than I would, but I think you're talking about, mindful of the train going overhead, you're talking about a very major project, just one.
Yeah.
And so,
look at for instance, have you seen what they did in Bridgeport on, is it State Street? State Street in Bridgeport, the underpass under the railroad there? They
Yes.
redid that
Yes.
a number of years ago.
Yep.
And that was, oh my God, heck of a project.
What did they do? What did it work?
They sank the road down a little bit and they made it bigger and I don't know that they have any like pump drainage in there, but they may have because there's this big new control box that's sitting over on the side.
Dick, you mentioned pumps. If rather than digging down, they came up with some sort of pumping thing, would that do it?
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, that.
Instead of digging down?
I don't think we need to
Circa
solve
is
that.
hiring engineers to do that.
This is actually an active project that Circa
Yes,
is
exactly.
working on.
I guess
at the
the
moment.
point was, we talk about, Reef, Roland Beach, Penfield, all right. You get to the end of them,
Well, the underpasses are covered in the.
and then you get to the
proposal.
underpasses, and so anyway.
Yeah, so
My
those
other
are
point-
actually active in this, yes.
Number 3, last 5 words, churches in the floodplain. And then you mention grants. Is reference to churches potentially compromising our ability to get grants for all the usual?
No, we're protecting neighborhoods. If a church happens to be in the neighborhood, that's not like we're expending public funds on a particular church to buy them new pews or something like that.
I would say
I'd be happy to take that out, to be
I would
honest.
take it out.
I'm fine to take that out.
But how's that any different? It's just a congregational church. You
Yeah, I think we
protect the
should.
church. How about the little houses right next door that are even lower?
Okay.
I'm
I
happy
would-
to take that out.
I would love to have it in there, but I think when you start going to Hartford to get grants or somewhere else, somebody's gonna come out of the woodwork and say, oh, you can't do that.
This one.
Okay.
Just a point.
So the next,
I had one
three
other,
items they had were, they had one section that was that they looked at the neighborhoods of the total Fairfield, and they said one section that we want to look at, and they called out specific neighborhoods, like mostly Greenfield Hills kind of things, that are upland neighborhoods. And they said, we're just going to maintain those. We're going to do what we're doing today to mitigate flood control, and there's not anything that is really hugely important that we need to do as a town.
how about those folks that Dick and Don
But
went to visit?
that's an opportunity for the stormwater.
But that's the next,
Precisely.
that's the next thing. So then they took a couple other neighborhoods, one of which was sort of the Rooster River neighborhood, which makes sense. They said, we will look at funding opportunities and opportunities to protect both individuals allowed to protect their own properties, as well as we would, as a community, expend funds to protect the neighborhoods.
That's Rooster River.
Which was fine for Rooster River, but they called that out. They called the sort of Kings Highway area as another one where individuals could protect, but also we would extend town funds. Then they said the beach area, only individuals can protect. We won't put any town funds in there. And my pushback was,
We're a neighborhood too.
why
Well, they are
would
a
you
neighborhood
not,
too.
in a POCD, have a potential for town funds and individual in all neighborhoods? Why would you single out? And Emmeline's comment back was, it's too expensive to do protection for the beach area because the projects are so expensive. We'd never be able to get a grant for it.
Well, you know
And so
what,
it's like-
taxes are too
So-
expensive too.
And my feeling is, if we can't get a grant, we can't get a grant, and then the town doesn't have to put any money in, so it doesn't matter. But why not at least have all neighborhoods treated equally? Why discriminate?
What is
I
the difference?
agree.
What is the difference between the folks that Don and Dick went to visit, who were impacted by a stream that comes down through all the neighborhood, and the bulkhead right across the street from your house that's flooded by a public waterway? It's the same thing,
I agree.
exact same
I
thing.
agree. So all I'm saying is let's not discriminate. Let's allow all these neighborhoods to apply for grants. And if it turns out that the solution for one neighborhood, maybe the beach area solutions are too expensive and we'll never get a grant, but at least we can at least that group would be allowed to apply from a town standpoint as a community for a grant. Why eliminate that? I also feel strongly that,
Now, in that item, might we logically include the fact that the town has already authorized some ARPA funds to study shoreline resiliency?
Good point.
So the town's already thinking about that, so let's put it in the POCD.
Yeah, we might as well, yeah.
That's a good point.
We should actually put all the ARPA funds in the POCD.
And DPW has said that, correct me if I'm wrong, they've said we are going to put a certain amount of money against Fairfield Beach Road, drainage and everything else every year to try to stay on top of it or ahead of it.
Well, and because right now, that's one of the resilient corridors.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 220 homes that need to have a safe egress should flooding occur.
And where are they?
On Fairfield Beach Road, there's 220 homes on Fairfield Beach Road that, I mean, my feeling on resilient corridors is this is about safety of our residents. And we need to have an ability for all of our residents to get to safety in a flooding situation.
You know what, Becky, I like couching it in terms of it's not our individual homes in the first instance, it's safety.
It is. It's about safety, yeah.
And we have an obligation to put together the safest possible plan for everybody in this town. I like that.
The other thing I would like to specifically call out, just because I personally believe it, but also because the state has called this out, is that the state actually, from a DEEP standpoint, did want to with at least 40% of state funds, because those are the neighborhoods and the homeowners and or renters who can't afford to do more resilience measures. And so they wanted to really focus that on, the lower income part of our population, which I totally support, and I think we should call out in our Flood and Erosion Control Board response. However, in my mind, all three neighborhoods have some low-income housing. We have, in the beach area, there is a whole section, probably in the northern part of the beach section, but still, of very low-income housing that were built, after the war. A lot of retirees, a lot of people who don't have a lot of money. I mean, just because there's a lot of rich people down at the beach doesn't mean you should discriminate around the whole beach area. There are plenty of low-income people.
Do they differentiate between owning and renting?
They did not differentiate, but there was a comment made in the meeting that rich people can afford to raise their houses and moderate income people, not low income, but moderate income people would have more of a struggle paying the money to raise their houses. Therefore, we should put our money towards the moderate income people, not the rich people, because they can afford it. Which, I don't have a major problem. Rich people can afford it. That's
I think
true.
There's some sense to it, and I'd be interested in knowing whether, in fact, the lower income people in Fairfield mostly rent, and if they do, maybe it should be directed toward renters.
I think some of it's retirees who don't have a lot of disposable income, and it's not. So there might be some rental issues, but I think a lot of it would also be people on fixed income, people who are on.
I think it's going to be definitional. When you mention retirees who are on fixed income, that's an excellent point. And then you might have others who have moved to town who are younger that rent. But I see a lot of gray there that needs to be addressed so that the money can go to the right people who really need it.
Yeah. And the reality is, it's not like there's any money that's like pouring into this. These are grants we're going to apply for. All right, so I think what I would like to do as next steps, we've had a couple comments on this POCD feedback. Dick has drafted a letter format of it. Oh, yes.
Question on the POCD part, and I didn't attend. Consider special tax district to pay for flood measures. What's meant by that?
So one of the things that is in the new state statutes that is allowed by flood and erosion control boards is that flood and erosion control boards can create a special taxing district so that if there was a specific resilience project that would uniquely benefit a specific neighborhood, and I think we would have to work with the homeowners to decide if this is important for them. We then could, the same way you have a sewer tax, you could have a specific tax over 30 years to pay for that resilience measure for that district.
But unlike a sewer tax, it would be a sewer tax collected to go to the whole town. If, let's say,
This would be if
the beach had a special tax, would it be
yes.
just for the beach, and would it be left to the beach to decide how the money was expended?
That's all the details. No.
No.
This would be for a project that has
That
been
would be
identified, costed out, and approved by the part of the project description might be, we're going to pay for part of this by a special assessment to the landowners who are going to benefit from this. When Becky talked about sewer tax, she's not talking about the annual tax we pay based on our water consumption.
Oh, I understand.
She's talking about the special assessment that you pay off.
The sewage system effectively covers the whole town.
But you're only paying for the sewerage in the street that serves your house and your neighbor's house when they ran a branch down your road.
The money goes into a common coffer that could be used to put a manhole cover in Black Rock.
Yeah.
Or in
this would be a dedicated special district where a resilience project has been identified that would support this district, and that funds to do that resilience project would be spread over a certain number of years, and a special tax would be allocated.
And it's for that district.
Yes.
The other issues to be worked out.
Yes.
But it's for that district only.
Yes.
But have you looked at that state statute 21-115?
No.
From a year ago.
No.
That was passed into law.
He signed it into law a year ago. That's what changes flood and erosion into flood protection, erosion, resiliency, whatever.
Oh, that's when we all looked at it.
Complicated.
Of course.
Well, it's a year ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
That allowed us
in there,
to do a
that
special tax.
includes about this taxing and raising funds for certain stuff, so you can look back at that.
And not to belabor it now, but here we are looking at it from 10,000 feet. It sounds like a wonderful concept. But all you have to do is look at Washington to see what happens to money. You have the ABC bill, and wait, why is the money going to XYZ? And as they always get, the devil's in the details. I think having a special tax district is great. That's how they pumped in all the sand 50 years ago.
Right.
It was an assessment tax, call it what you
And the
may.
same
Yeah,
thing, if
that's
we wanted
right.
to
Yep.
do a beach
Yep.
replenishment, exactly,
Fine.
what you would
That's
only
right.
tax the people who would be impacted.
As long as when
If you
the
wanted to
time
raise
comes,
Pine Creek Dike, for
Yeah.
example,
as long as when the time
It would
comes,
only be
the
taxed for those
parameters
residents.
set such that the money just doesn't disappear off for something else.
no, this would be a special tax district
Okay,
Well,
that would,
I think that this town, we have more than enough checks and balances and opinions that are stated during the months that it takes to adjudicate any of these things, so.
Good point, yeah. Okay, that was all. Sorry.
yeah.
We don't, no.
Agreed.
So I would suggest, in order to move this forward, that the members individually communicate their thoughts with Becky, because she's obviously the author of the majority of this. Communicate their individual thoughts with Becky over the next week or 10 days.
10 days.
Okay.
10 days, so whatever 10 days, this is 26, by the 26th. And then Becky will put together the final document, and we can have a special meeting by phone to approve it.
I will send out a draft, and we're gonna, why don't we do a special?
Because, yeah, we can call a special meeting, call in by phone. I mean, it's like a 15-minute meeting because we will individually have communicated with Becky.
Well, why don't we reply all so that everyone sees everyone's comments?
Okay, I'm trying to avoid the more than two people constituting the legal meeting when you're discussing something.
No, not
So,
discussing. I'm just talking about from an email. When you put your
no,
comments
that's
to
different.
me,
That's different.
just do it as a reply all, so that all members can see the comments. So that therefore,
Sure.
everyone sees what's
Okay.
going on.
That's good. That's good.
That's good, yep.
That sounds legal to me.
Yeah, it's not a meeting.
No. Because that way we can get it off, get it off and running to planning and zoning.
I'd like to get back to them sooner rather
Right,
than
that's
later, because
that's
I don't
my
want them to
point.
get too far
Right.
along.
We want to show our interest
Yes.
and our willingness to participate. Thank you for inviting us.
All right, so moving on to the second half of item 4, are there any other comments on the Parks and Rec master plan?
I don't know. I don't have any. We went on record with a couple things that they should pay attention to. I think it's still in such a stage of infancy.
I think they need to cost it out.
Yeah, it's in
a lot of stuff will
its
go
in
away.
its infancy. So.
All right, let's move on then to agenda item 5, updates on current projects. I actually did not get a chance to touch base. I have no updates.
Nor did I. I don't have any updates either. I need to do my monthly conversation with Bill and see what's going on. And
he's on vacation. Yeah, he's on vacation. Yeah, this is, August is a tough month on that. So let's move on to item 6. Is there any other additional business that anyone wants to bring up?
No.
The only thing I wanted to do was go back and formally recommend a resilience fund. I think it needs to go into the POCD document, but I also think we need to refresh the letter we wrote, what was this, probably a year ago now.
At least.
And resend that, just because I just think we need to go on record as doing that. So that's number 1. The other thing.
And that resilience fund, just to refresh my own memory, that resilience fund is a capability provided for in the state statutes now. And it was it there before last year's 21-115?
Yes, it was actually.
Yeah,
it was actually
like one town did it or something.
Brantford has done it. I know a couple other towns are actively looking at it, and I suspect that this is going to be something more and more towns will be doing. And it might be that Fairfield needs to wait until more towns do it before we do it, but why don't we do it now? This seems crazy that we don't.
Brantford had.
And that would go to the Board of Selectmen?
I think it goes to the Board of Selectmen. I don't think we go to them first, then the RTM. I would think from a procedural standpoint.
Oh yeah.
I think.
And it needs to go to the Board of Selectmen, see what their response is, and I think they're the ones that need to say, hey, let's flesh this out. Let's go talk with finance about it.
Yeah, I mean it's our recommendation. They need to decide if they want to, as a town, do it, and then figure out what that looks like. The other thing I wanted to bring up is.
So resiliency fund, do we want to come to next month's meeting with our?
Well, I have a letter. Why don't the action.
Okay, you circulate that for comment?
I will recirculate.
The old letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Recirculate and update, because I think a couple things have happened since then. The next thing I would like to bring up as a action item is we have a lot of things that have been put into the revised charter recommendation. Our name change, having, extra members, or if the charter does not get approved, none of those will happen. Should we be actively looking to get some of those approved ahead of time? Or do we wait and see if the charter gets approved and then
How soon
worry about
will they act on the charter?
November vote?
It's pretty soon.
So maybe we just wait.
Like what? Like.
I mean, we have a state statute that was approved by the state on a
Yeah,
lot of these
but
things.
our town charter does not adopt everything that was provided therein. That's why the thing, we did, 25-94, but it's that 25-94 through 97 or whatever.
But our town, so we have a weird thing. We've got our town charter, and then we've got our town code, I think it's called, or something.
Yes.
So, for example, something like the Solid Waste and Recycling Commission does not exist in the town charter. There is no such thing.
Right.
It's in the town code, but it's not in the town charter.
I think,
So it's like certain things can be put in one document and not the other, but the charter is very specifically can only be changed by a vote
right, it's a
by the
big
total
deal.
population. So we could ask that some of these things that the state statute changed
Put in the town code,
get put in the town code,
which can be approved by the
which could be approved
RTM.
by the RTM and the selectmen.
Now,
But
my
I think maybe why don't we wait and see if it gets approved? Because if
Yeah,
the charter gets
yeah.
approved, then it's,
Yeah, we're wasting our time.
yeah. All right, so let's.
My sense, because I still don't understand it, but my sense is that our town charter is within the town code.
No, they're two separate documents.
I'm just telling you what I looked at. It's within the town. If you look up the town code, it has something about the town charter in there. Because during the deliberations of the Charter Revision Committee, they had some topics that were, gee, maybe we should take this out of the charter and put it into the town code, because the town, if it's in the town code,
You can
the
change it.
town has more ability to change it
Yes.
without waiting for a complete revision.
That's
right?
why they're
Right,
two
Prue?
separate
I mean,
documents, though. That's why they're two separate documents.
No,
Because
but
the code you can change.
But I
By
think
the-
they're presented
Yeah,
together.
if you look up the town code on the online thing.
I read both. I read the whole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they
but
are
I might have-
separate. They're separate documents, and I know I'm not supposed to speak, but they
I
are
would-
separate documents. I just think that they're kept together.
I've assumed
Yeah, they're linked.
They work off each other.
when you see town charter, whatever date, that the charter contains enabling language for a code. Doesn't make sense that a code would provide for a charter. You have a charter before you have a code.
The charter
Okay.
is what the town must do.
But I haven't read.
And the way the
I don't
town
know.
must act.
Mhm.
The code
It's the
is,
Constitution, basically.
yeah, the code is, these are things that the town can choose to structure as a way to work within the town.
That's the code.
That's the code.
The
The
code
charter is,
implements the charter.
not necessarily. There are
No?
things in the
Yeah,
in the
not in the
code that are
charter.
not in the charter.
Mhm, okay.
And the idea is that the charter should be the must-have,
Mhm.
and the code could be the kind of,
Like a
this is
wish
the way we
list
work
kind of
today, that maybe, we learn 10 years from now that we should change it, but we don't have to change the charter, because the charter is the must-haves, and the code is the ways of working.
Well, the code's kind of
That's
like
what
the
I'm-
regulations that implement the charter provision.
But there's a lot of stuff in the code that's not in the charter.
Yeah.
That makes sense. My guess is there's some very general enabling language in the charter.
Well, we
No,
need to
it's
invite,
very
we need to invite Brian.
I'd be interested in
Understand
knowing
this.
that. That's an interesting point.
Anyway, that's not for us to decide, so let's wait till, what we're agreeing is, let's wait till November.
Agreed.
If it
Yeah.
turns out that for whatever reason, the charter does not pass, then we should recommend that certain things go into the code so that we can do the duties that are requested by the state statutes.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
That triggered another thought. Anticipating approval of the revised town charter, we're going to get 3 alternate members, I guess
Yes.
we call them. We're going to get 3 alternate members. Who are they going to be? Are we
I
going
think
to actively recruit some people?
I
Or are
think
we
we
just
should
going to wait
recruit.
for the town?
I think we should recruit, but I think Brenda puts out in her newsletter, these are the
All right,
open spots.
anybody interested, let me know.
But I personally would like to get someone from the Mill/Rooster.
Well, no, that, in my mind, I want somebody from the Rooster River neighborhoods and somebody from the Mill River neighborhoods.
Yeah, I agree.
Great.
She can put that in her newsletter, like.
Yeah,
Because right now we have a lot of beach,
yeah, we're all coastal, yeah, but
which is fine.
But after the Rooster River flooding, I mean, you might wind up with some people up there and
So
say,
I
yeah,
think
I wanna be there to put my 2 cents
That's
in.
good. If it's Rooster River gets you down to Tunks's Hill and that whole area.
Mhm.
Mill River, it's Greenfield Hill, Southport.
Mhm.
I got it. Great idea.
So I think we ask, we'll structure a written thing for Brenda's newsletter, asking specifically for.
And we also have to do, assuming, let's see. No, it's not assuming. That's interesting. That statute 21-115 says that we have to do annual reports.
We do have to do an annual.
But if our name doesn't change to the flood resiliency and
We don't have to
erosion,
do it.
we don't have to do it. I don't know. But seriously, that's something that we need to put in the back of our heads too, that we need to start thinking about.
Well, that's my.
And it's every 2 years,
that's-
right?
No,
It's
every year, annual.
Annual? Okay.
My quandary is if we're being asked by the state to do things, but the town's not giving us the rest of, the state said, here's, you have a new name, you should do this, you should do this, and this, and this, and this. But if the town's not saying, do all that, do we have to? I think we do.
If we're going to be relevant, we need to do that.
And that's why it needs
You
to
know?
go into the code if it doesn't get into the charter.
Yeah.
Because at least, all right.
Yep.
Any other additional business that may properly come before the board?
No, ma'am.
No?
Any public comment?
There were no other people online except for Mr. Lamberti.
All right, then it is now
No, there's no one else online.
8 minutes of 8. Can I accept a motion to adjourn from anybody?
This is Dick, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Can I second it?
Second.
The
Second it?
meeting is now adjourned.